Hi you guys. Okay, so as promised, I'm going to try to go through this evidence that I have and explain to you guys what happened in my case. Try to stay with me because there's a lot of stuff and I'm only picking out all of the relevant details, but just keep in mind there's more than what I'm sharing here. Okay, so on August 21st, 2017, I went to the police department to make a verbal complaint. I wasn't actually even going there to make a complaint, but once I started giving out information, the lieutenant told me that he felt that I should type it all out, everything we had talked about, and get it to him so that it could be reviewed. So, August 21st is the day I made the initial complaint. The complaint was lengthy. It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages long. And in it, I summed up everything I had talked to the lieutenant about, and I specifically stated in it multiple times that I was afraid and I felt that the stuff that was going on was 100% stalking. I actually stated in it that I felt at that moment I was actually still actively being stalked. On August 25th, 2 days later, he was placed on administrative leave with pay, pending an investigation. On September 1st, which was the Friday of Labor Day weekend, he apparently resigned. And I got a call at 4 p.m. on a Friday of a long weekend telling me that he had resigned and that there was nothing else the police could do for me, even though with my complaint I turned in this much evidence to prove stalking, hacking. Can you see the size of this paper? There's over 300 pieces of evidence to show that the stuff I said in my complaint was happening. I don't think that anybody can refute when you have this much evidence, something's wrong. This evidence, by the way, goes back to July, way before I made the complaint, to show blocked from Match.com after I tried to break up with him and get a dating account. Blocked from Dating.com. Blocked from Single Parents Meet. I had 9,896 photos deleted from my phone. And I had proof that I had paid for these subscriptions and then the next day was blocked and that was it. Nobody would talk to me at any of these places as to how I got blocked or why I was blocked. On some of these sites, I had not even yet made a profile, and the very next day, probably within 12 hours or so, I was blocked. This is going back to July, before I even made the report. I was just printing out evidence because I had already put the pieces together and I knew what was going on. I was, keeping evidence all the way back to then because that was the start of me realizing something's up. So, where did I leave off? Okay, on Friday of the Labor Day weekend, September 1st, at 4 o'clock, they told me he resigned. There wasn't anything more they could do to help me, and that the internal restraining order they had given him when he was first placed on administrative leave back in August was no longer valid. They told me if I felt like I needed to get a restraining order, that I should go to the court and get one. At this point, I wasn't even expecting any of this to be happening. I wasn't expecting a resignation, and I still felt that since I had proven all of this, and the police had confirmed for me in the meantime that my suspicions were correct, that yes, he was running plates, that yes, he was Corey checking people at my house, and that yes, he was stalking me, that they were still going to be doing something about this, because they're federal crimes, and he's a cop, so, okay. So, on that whole weekend, Labor Day weekend, I had pictures of him driving by my house. I had pictures of his children or his son driving by my house. Clear as day photos from my security cameras and me taking pictures from my cell phone to prove it. I was providing this information to the police as it was coming in real time. My dog's freaking out. On September 4th, Sunday night of the long weekend, I had the surveillance footage. I was actually watching it on my monitors, and I could see a light kind of tracing around all the windowsills outside my house, like somebody was in the bushes, and I could see the lights. If you guys were my Facebook friends at that time, you saw that video because I posted it. You can see me in the video walking out to right where that person is in the bushes and looking around trying to figure out what the light is, because I could see the light on my monitors, but when I went outside, I couldn't see any lights. The reason for that was because he was using, or someone was using, infrared lights. And if you have home security cameras, you know that, or hopefully you know, that they can be shorted out with an infrared laser light. On September 5th, the next day, I went to the police department. The chief again tried to tell me that stalking and hacking and the things that he was doing were civil matters. They're not. By the end of that meeting, I told them that I was terrified of this guy. I was afraid for my life. I'd seen him outside my house all weekend. He's got other people driving by. Somebody's searching around. I don't know what's going on, but I'm terrified at this point. So the chief and lieutenant called in to the Haverhill courthouse ahead of time for me to get a restraining order. Here's the restraining order. And I want you guys to take a look because it says right here, can you see this? Signed on the phone by Patricia Dowling. Keep that in mind. That's a judge in the Essex County Court. Okay, you know what I'm saying. All right. On September 7th, the Newburyport police went to serve him the restraining order at his house. I think it was actually served on the 6th. But on the 7th, the Newburyport police called down over to Georgetown. Stay with me, you guys. I know it's a lot, but it's all right here. And it says, right here, I'm going to read it to you. These are the police. This is the memo to the file from Chief Cudmore, Georgetown Police, September 7th. During the process, 2 firearms with a large amount of ammunition were secured by the Newburyport Police. Okay? Okay, we have more. This business also, by the way, all of this information is redacted. But if you guys know anything about the Victims' Rights Bill in Massachusetts, it clearly states that if you're the victim of a crime, you have the right by law to be kept informed all the time. So, in this report, it also says where they haven't blocked out that they got the firearms. It said during this serving of the restraining order, they checked their inventory records, and it says current inventory record on file do not reflect any reason why he should have that volume of ammunition in his possession at this time. Right there, you guys. It says it. So, that means that the night that on Sunday night, September 4th, when I was trying to figure out who the heck was in my bushes and where the light was coming from, he was still in possession of 2 weapons and a large amount of ammunition. On September 12th, it is confirmed the memo received by Sergeant Jones concerning ownership of a department Glock 4 .45 caliber firearm that was secured was delivered. It was identified the Glock firearm was the Georgetown Police Department's gun. and the ammunition. On September 13th, they said that they were going to charge him with a possible, after all of this, and stolen weapons and ammunition that didn't belong to him, that was stolen from a police department, they were going to charge him with a possible criminal charge of larceny over $250. Okay, guys? You can't make this up. Do you guys think that you would get that same treatment if you stole 2 weapons and a large amount of ammo from a police department? Probably not. You probably wouldn't even get that kind of treatment if you stole a gun from your neighbor's house, let alone a police department. They did not know these weapons were even missing, which brings me to my next point, that when you see me in the video walk out to my driveway at 12:30 in the morning, he could have literally taken that Glock 45 caliber, shot me dead with it, dropped it on the ground and walked away, and none of those guys would have even known who did it because it was their own weapons, their own ammunition, and they didn't even know they were gone. I'm already terrified just reliving this, okay? Here's another little tidbit. On September 14th, I returned to the Haverhill Courthouse to get the renewal extension of the restraining order because the initial restraining order that Judge Dowling, again, signed by phone, and Judge Bainey heard the hearing on the 14th, was denied because the judge said to me, I went over this with you guys, that when I said the police had already confirmed at that point that he was running plates, the judge's response was, maybe he wanted to know who was at my house. Yup, that's what stalkers do. They stalk you and they want to know what's going on with you. It's pretty simple. The judge also said to me during that hearing that to his credit, he never hit me. Who cares? Are you guys kidding me? I'm getting stalked and hacked. There is evidence in here to show it. Both of those things, plus manipulation, exploitation, you name it, we've gone over that. Okay, so in the notes from Chief Cudmore, there's a signature. It says right there on September 18th that the DA's office at the Haverhill and Newburyport courts were notified of the records request. I don't know what the records request was, but they advised, they got a records request from his attorney. They advised Lieutenant Hatch that there will be no release of reports or information prior to a hearing date. Do you guys see that? No release. Keep that in mind, please, along with Judge Dowling signing the first restraining order by phone. Okay. That brings me to what? On the next day, September 14th, hearing restraining order not renewed because, to his credit, even though he was stalking me and hacking into all my stuff, and they already knew he had stolen weapons from the PD with ammo, they said I didn't need the restraining order. Okay, great. So, on September 15th, I looked at the evidence that he submitted against me in court from his attorney. These are text messages. I'm not going to show them to you because you don't need to know. But I pretty much already gave you the story. In this giant paper stuff that includes my nude photos, a lot of them, which, by the way, Judge Bainey spent 7.5 minutes in silence flipping through. I was not given the opportunity to see in court what the judge was looking at. I just had to sit there while I got the stare down from that guy and his lawyer. Well, the judge looked through all of this. I'm sure you can see there's photos in there. This evidence was falsified. I already gave the police all of this, and this don't match. You can look through it and see. I went all in, you guys, by the way. I knew at that point that if I was going to go forward, there wasn't going to be anything that I could leave out because I didn't want him to come back and say, oh, well, she didn't say this or this. I went 100% all in. I told these people the most personal, private details any woman could ever share with people she doesn't know, putting my trust in them that they are the police and they were going to do the right thing. They didn't. His evidence is falsified. I reported to the chief and the lieutenant on September 15th that the evidence he used in court that the judge thought was so awesome that he had to spend 7.5 minutes, there's one right there, looking at while I sat there, not giving me the opportunity to look through it or say yes or no. Okay, now let's go forward to September 19th. Let me get myself, there's so much stuff, you guys. It's gonna be hard to follow. Where did I do with it? September 19th, the police brought, September 18th it's dated. This is a letter, here you go, from Chief Cudmore, and it says that pursuant to policy and procedure, specifically section 206, blah, 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 and based on the evidence and information I received during this investigation, I have found the complaint that I filed to be valid and supported by sufficient evidence, and in this case, your complaint is sustained. There's the chief's signature. I'm gonna post some of this stuff. I'm not gonna post my nude photos. Don't get excited down below. I'm not gonna post all the evidence because, you know, come on, you guys. Even though it's juicy and exciting, this is what I'm gonna post. These letters I've gotten from the police, along with their reports that show stolen weapons and all sorts of stuff that normal people don't get away with. They don't. Okay. They brought me this letter, and I was told to lay low, that there was a big investigation going on, and they would get back to me with what was going to happen next. All right. Let's see. That was the 19th. Okay. On October 2nd, I inquired as to the status of what was happening. There was like a delay in communication, and they didn't answer me right away. But then finally, on October 3rd, the chief and the lieutenant, they texted me and said, "Are you home? Can we come by your house?" I said, "Sure." They came over and they spent over an hour here talking about how disgusting they thought he was, how inappropriate all of this behavior was, and based on everything I had given them, including the falsified evidence, which, by the way, he's already been in trouble for doing up in New Hampshire. He put a veteran in jail for rape when that guy had nothing to do with it. It was found, if you read that case, in the judge's footnotes below, that this cop lied under oath, lied to a magistrate, falsified evidence to secure an arrest warrant for somebody that had nothing to do at all with the assault of this person. And actually, I think in that case, the whole story was a lie, but there might be, something else to do with that person's mental health. I don't know. You guys can go check it out for yourself. But in any event, the charges against that person were dropped. He went on to sue this guy and his chief at that time, and it was an over $1 million settlement that also resulted in the chief, this guy who was a sergeant in that department, and 5 other officers resigning. I mean, I don't know, but, have you guys ever heard of, what's that when you are watching a movie and you're like, flash forward? It's like, kind of hindsight's 20/20, you guys. You might want to be thinking about this at this moment. A chief, a sergeant, and 5 cops resigned because of what he did. And that was in 2013. Okay, so they told me on that day at my house that they were horrified by his behavior. They don't condone it. They're gonna bring charges against him for what he did to me, and they actually referred to him as the Aaron Hernandez of their team. I'm still alive, so that's a good sign. I believe it's only because I've been so vocal about it, and that's one of the reasons why I've been continually putting stuff out there this whole time on social media, because I'm up against the whole police department, you guys. Do you think I can float around town and feel safe about it? Not really. So, okay. They told me that day that there was going to be a hearing for charges on October 11th. They told me that because of what had happened during the September 14th restraining order hearing, which not only did I not get the restraining order, even though they knew that he had guns and stuff and ammo, and they had tons of proof that he was stalking me and hacking into my accounts, and they knew his stuff was falsified, and it could easily be proven because I had already given him some of the same texts, and they don't match up, okay? They decided to lie to me, tell me to lay low, and tell me that charges were being brought, but they wouldn't tell me what the charges were, which is interesting because you have the right to know when you've been through anything like this, that you have the right to know what the charges are as the victim. Okay, I hate that word too, but let's just call it what it is for that time. Okay, so on October 10th, I got a text from the lieutenant saying that the hearing was going to be postponed. It was supposed to be rescheduled within a few days. They were going to get back to me with the date. They didn't. On October 25th, I added a third addendum to all of this with all of the stalking and hacking photographs, surveillance from my cameras, and screenshots of my accounts being accessed and blocked to the police again. They then told me that this report, even though it said at the top of it an addendum to my original complaint filed on such and such a date, was going to be considered new charges, and I would have to start all over again telling all of this to a new officer when they had already promised to keep this information safe and secure, and that I would only be dealing with the chief and the lieutenant on it. So I was a little bit apprehensive to go speak to someone new at the police department because, number one, I don't know who his friends are there really. Pretty much everything he said to me was a lie. I mean, he even made up stories, and they're actually in his evidence. Fake fights, accusing me of things that never happened, straight up manipulation. Maybe it's not a crime, but it shows you someone's character. And if this person is a detective at this point with access, like I said, to weapons and information that's above and beyond what everybody else should be looking at, then I don't know why they don't take this seriously. But okay, anyway, here's what happened next. I still reported throughout this time, real time. I would screenshot and send to the lieutenant any pictures I had of him driving by, any weirdness with my phone, constantly the whole time. Okay, so now they tell me that the new addendum, which included things he was doing, including threats to kill me, break into my house and rape me, were now a whole new case. They're not. They happened during the same time as all of this. It's not a new case. But okay. So they told me that the hearing for charges was going to be November 14th. Okay. So, now I'm waiting, and I'm finding out between these time frames as I'm asking over and over what's going on. You know, does he know about these charges? Am I safe? What do? I couldn't get a restraining order based on falsified evidence, which basically he scammed safety out of me. He manipulated the court. He lied to a judge. His attorney passed this evidence in, which means she too passed in falsified evidence. And inside here, there are lots of blank pages. I don't know if that was made to beef up the packet, but when you hand this to a judge and they spend 7.5 minutes looking at someone's nudes and you don't even know they're looking at your nudes at the time, that's a little friggin' questionable and creepy. trying really hard not to swear. It's so hard. Okay. So, let's see. What does that bring me to? November. On November 2nd, I got a text from the lieutenant saying that there were no charges being brought for all of this stalking, hacking, running plates, Corey checking outside my house after they allegedly told him there was like a verbal restraining order. I don't even know if that's true or not, but okay. That this stuff was still occurring. I said, I need to know what's going on. The lieutenant told me at that time in a text message, which I still have, that there were no charges related to any of that. The charges actually were brought by the town of Georgetown for the larceny charge. This is November 3rd. On November 3rd, nobody had even told me yet that he got caught with stolen weapons and a large amount of ammunition that didn't belong to him. They didn't even bother to tell me, even though all this time I'm reporting over and over, he's outside my house, I'm being followed. I had the whole month of November while this was happening. I have probably 60 plus photos of the same vehicles following me throughout multiple towns and also parked outside my house late at night. Just by chance, I happened to see the cars parked outside because I got home late one night and I was like, why is there like this rando car? And other nights, I went outside with my dog or whatever to get fresh air, and I could see on my security cameras cars parked in the places where he actually used to park and stalk me from. Concerning, very much so. So, on November 3rd, I reached out to the chief and I said, what the heck is going on? You guys didn't tell me that this was the day I found out that it was a weapons charge. And I have worked in the field of law a long time. So you guys know me, I've worked with some of the best attorneys. And I've done criminal defense work, and I know that a weapons charge based on guns and ammunition that were seized during a restraining order that wasn't renewed is no longer a valid search. Okay, stay with me. If somebody gets a restraining order against you, but it doesn't get renewed, that means they have made a decision in court that there should have never been one taken out in the first place, and therefore anything seized during the service of that restraining order would no longer be valid. That's a bogus charge. And that's exactly what I was saying to the chief on November 3rd. That's a bullshit, bogus charge. Sorry I let one slip. I get a little ramped up. I requested, here it is, on November 3rd, I said to the chief, I'm going to be down there by 10:45. I can be there by 10:45. Do you see that? I got down to the police department. I only lived 2 minutes from it. And by the time I got there, guess who was no longer in the building? Chief Cudmore. He sent out one of Adam's good friends. I won't drop those names, but if you know that guy, you don't like him either. He walked out to the front of the police department when I came in, and he said, sorry, the chief left. But he's going to get back to you on Monday. I was told that on that day, here it is right here, November 3rd. I emailed the chief and I said, no good, buddy. I just showed up there. I just got here. This is not okay. He replies back to me at 12:18 p.m., Donald Cudmore. And what does it say? I'm going to meet with the district attorney's office about this on Monday. This had been going on since August, and he had not yet told the DA all of this. Doesn't seem like good police work to me. So, on that weekend between November 3rd and November 6th, I was terrorized 100% by the police. I had undercover vehicles. When I would pull out of my driveway, they would come bombing down the street at me and ditch out at the last minute and go around. I had, everywhere I went in town that weekend, I had cops following me everywhere I went. Okay, so come November 6th, Monday, November 6th, I'm terrified. I'm afraid to leave my house. I don't know what the heck is happening in Georgetown, Mass, that I thought was the greatest place ever, that the police in my own town where I've lived for 13 years and raised my children here would be out and out terrorizing me. I went to the bank and the chief's undercover car, which he brought to my house way back in October, and I have video footage of, followed me around. He parked right next to me wherever I was, okay? On the 6th, I said, I'm not coming down to that police department by myself because I'm probably going to get arrested and thrown in jail and nobody's going to know what the hell has happened to me since then. So I said, if you want, we can talk by phone. The chief says right here, I have asked the DA to take the lead on your new allegations. Nope, not new. Happened during all of this and all of this, okay? This is the game we're playing in Georgetown. So, I don't know, maybe Chief, if you're embarrassed that you didn't know 2 large caliber handguns and a large amount of ammunition were not missing from your department, but you do not have the right to terrorize me and release to this guy all of everything I've said to you and put me in dangerous way 10 times more than I was before I made the reports. At that point, I felt truly like I would have been better to keep my mouth shut. And you know what? I wouldn't have been, maybe back in November, but we'll get to that later. It says right here, as you can see from the chief, he's going to notify the DA. On November 6th, I went, after speaking with the chief on the phone and saying, I'm not coming down there, the chief confirmed that he hadn't given any of this information to anyone else yet, even though I was told it was supposed to be handled by an outside investigator unrelated to the police department. That never happened. Okay. I told you guys this, on November 6th to the Newburyport District Courthouse. The reason I went to Newburyport instead of Haverhill was because it occurred to me that the Haverhill Courthouse is where he basically works. If you're arresting people and you're showing up at hearings, it's Essex County, you're going to Haverhill. So it occurred to me that Judge Bainey and this cop and the Georgetown Police Department already had a prior working relationship before I walked in there to get the restraining order. Conflict of interest. That's all I'm going to say about that. They never should have even been hearing that restraining order. Never. But okay. I spoke to the DA. I told you guys this. I went there. The only person who knew I was on my way there was the chief, because I said to him on the phone before I hung up, I think I need to go get another restraining order. I'm not safe. You guys you're not taking it seriously. You're ditching out on meetings. You're not telling me about, stolen weapons. You're not keeping me informed. I'm getting terrorized. Something's wrong. I went to talk to the DA myself. They told me that they spoke to the DA about charges, but I had called the DA's office and they didn't know anything about any charges. They didn't even know anything about this guy at all. So go figure. I think by the end of this, we might actually find out who the real liar is. I mean, I already know about one, but we might have more. So let's round them up. Take out your pens and make notes in case I miss anything. The district attorney said to me they agreed something seemed wrong. They asked me to go over to the clerk's office and find out if there were actually any charges. The reason why the chief told me during the October meeting that these charges were going to be transferred to a different jurisdiction so that they would be fairly heard. But the problem is that the Haverhill District Courthouse was closed for construction, and guess what, you guys? All of the cases were being heard over there in Newburyport. Okay, it's the same people. When I walked into the courthouse, in fact, I was kind of surprised to see that the same security guard from the Haverhill Courthouse was doing the security in Newburyport that day. So I was kind of like, whoa, okay. They asked me to write it down with his date of birth. I'm going to just block it out because, you know, I don't need this wacko still after me. So I don't want, trying not to do anything that, you know I don't want to put out there. So I wrote down his name, his date of birth. They responded back with, see it right there? The case number, the docket number, and it was 1 count of larceny, town of Georgetown versus him. Again, no charges brought on my behalf, even though felonies were being committed then and had been being committed the whole way up until I wrote this down. I just put it there, don't zoom in. Okay. I told you guys the other day that I was there, but I didn't go there to get a restraining order. I went there to talk to the district attorney to try to get some help. The district attorney's advocate suggested that maybe I should try to get a restraining order because, you know, then I could get before the judge and try to explain what the heck's happening here and to say how I need the safety. I took the application but never filled it out because I wasn't really sure if that's what I should be doing or if that was the right approach for me to be taking at that point. I already knew I had one judge act inappropriately back in September and not give me any safety based on falsified evidence. And to his credit, he never hit me, but he threatened to break into my house, rape me, kill me, was stalking me, shorted out my cameras, was hiding in my yard, and on and on and on. Okay, I took the paperwork and I went outside to my truck to sit there and say, is this the right thing? 5 minutes, when I got into my truck, first of all, I got into my truck and I looked up and I saw somebody who looked just like him walking up the side stairs of the Newburyport courthouse, but they went towards the staff entrance. And so in my mind, I was like, maybe, you know, okay, I'm stressed out. I'm seeing him everywhere. You know, maybe just by chance, it looks like him. You know, I felt that it was him, but he went to the staff entrance, and I was told way back in September by Chief Cudmore that this guy would never be a cop again. He would be, in fact, lucky to get a job at the Foot Locker at the mall. That's what the chief told me. Apparently not, because where he was going was into the staff entrance of the clerk's office at the Newburyport courthouse. Okay. 2 minutes later, I started getting phone calls from the courthouse. They wanted to know what I did with the paperwork. And I said, I didn't fill it out. I'm sitting out in my truck. I need to make a phone call and think about what I'm doing to make sure this is right. They wanted that paperwork back. That's what they told me. I didn't have the right to take a blank form out of the courthouse. They called me at 2:25, 2:26, 2:32, and 2:40. 4 times in 12 minutes, the clerk's office called me looking for a blank form from the courthouse. I don't know if you guys have a shortage of paperwork going on over there, but I've taken blank forms out of courthouses plenty of times, both for whatever reason I need them and also in my job as a paralegal for 10 plus years. You go get the forms, you fill them out, you bring them back. I know how it works. Okay, so I also saw people coming out of the courthouse and looking around, and I'm on my phone and I'm just thinking, wow, I don't know what what's something weird going on. I went back into the courthouse to return the blank form they needed so severely to have back that they had to call me 4 times in 12 minutes looking for that one blank form. And thankfully, the security guard said, I think the victim advocate person is looking for you. So before I went upstairs to go return the blank form, I headed to go around to speak to the DA. She said to me, is he here? And when I tell you guys the terror, I don't even want to think about it. I'm going to try to keep it unemotional. I said to her, I think I saw him outside. Why would he be here? And she said, I don't know. We turned to walk back towards the front door, and guess who came in through the front? Security. Him. Where he was for the last 20 minutes, is anyone's good guess. I'm going to put it out there that he had ex parte communications with the clerks and the judge, which is 100% illegal. You can't do that, Patricia Dowling. That's a crime. Okay. Remember what I told you about the called-in restraining order? I'm going to get to that next. I went up to the clerk's office with the victim witness advocate. He was standing in the clerk's office with 5 women. The victim advocate had to ask him to leave so I could fill out the paperwork and get a damn restraining order because he's here and nobody seems to know why. This is the paperwork I filled out. They rushed me through it. Okay, by this point, I'm hysterically crying. I'm scared. I don't know what the heck's going on. You know, if you've been through this kind of thing, it's terrifying. That's only really the word I can come up with. The clerks told me, you said you wanted a restraining order, so we got a judge in here to give you one. You need to fill this out right now and get in there because, you know, it's late and the judge wants to go home. And I said, I don't want to be in the same jurisdiction that I was already in. 3 times I told the clerks, I don't want to be in the Haverhill jurisdiction. I want to be in the Newburyport jurisdiction so that I can get a fair shake at this thing. They rushed me through the paperwork. Can you see down here? I never even dated it or signed it. But they let this hearing go forward anyway. Incompetent. Okay. I went into the courtroom not knowing what judge I was going to get. Wouldn't you know, guess who it was? Patricia Dowling. She already knew about this case from September 5th when she signed and approved the prior emergency restraining order by phone. That means, again, conflict of interest. Even though she pretended, and they told me, yeah, you're going into a different jurisdiction. Nope. They put me back before the same judge that had already signed one 2 months prior. She then, like I told you guys, proceeded to take his evidence, hold up like this to the whole courtroom like she was doing the, rounds girl in a wrestling match, and ask me things like, is this your nipple? And, were you afraid when you sent him this? Obviously not. Duh. Okay. Anyways, when I said over and over that she was not looking at my evidence and only looking at his, she threw this exact packet that I have in my hands at me across the courtroom, and it went all over the floor. The court officer had to pick it up, and I said to the victim witness advocate, thank God who's my witness, can you believe this? This is what's going on, you guys. This is how this judge chose to treat me, but even though I gave her my own evidence, she would only look at his. Illegal again. I don't know what the conversation was that they had in secret private, but that's illegal too. She never once said I shouldn't be hearing this case because I was the one who signed it. She actually acted like she knew nothing about who either one of us were. She asked him what he did for work. What do you do for work, sir? Really? Okay. Thank God they record these things. Let's hope it comes out. I didn't get the restraining order that day, and not only that, when I was up on the stand getting ready to say what had happened, that judge actually asked me to leave the witness stand and go down there and stand next to him so that he could hear me. What? Okay, anyone that has anything to do with court knows you do not take someone who's hysterically crying, saying that they've had their life threatened, been threatened that you're going to be broken into and raped and all this other stuff, and that he falsified the evidence and got caught with stolen weapons, and the police were terrorizing me and do nothing to help me. You don't ask that woman to go stand next to that guy so he can hear you. You don't. It's wrong. Okay. So, she told me that she wasn't going to give me the restraining order because he hasn't called me. Does it look like he needs to call me? Does it, when I give you evidence that someone is outside my house sending their kid by in my yard late at night and on, Did you think he needs to call me? He's living inside my phone and has hacked all my accounts. She didn't renew the restraining order. Then she let him leave. He went outside and sat on the bench right outside the doors of the courtroom, and I had to wait 10 minutes before, because he was waiting for me, okay? And they wouldn't do anything to help me. They saw me standing there hysterically crying, saying I'm not leaving the courtroom because he's going to kill me, and they just let it happen. So eventually, the victim witness advocate said, okay, he's not leaving. I'm going to walk you all the way out the door to your car to make sure you're safe. And she walked me out of that courtroom, past him sitting with the smirk on his face by the bench, out to my car, and I came home. I got an email from the chief later on stating that he reached out to the district attorney and that they were going to meet with me. Okay, you guys, fast forward now to November 17th when I met, here's my name tag, Essex County District Attorney's Office, guest of Maureen Leal. Maureen Leal is the head of Victim Witness Services for Essex County. During that meeting, I told you guys, there was a state trooper, Peter Sherber, Assistant District Attorney Kate McDougall, and the head of Victim Services, Maureen Leal, in the meeting. They did not bring any notes to the meeting. They refused again to look at this. No, she said to me, I don't need to see all that. She told me that nothing he did was a crime. When I said to her, he showed up in court before I had even filled out the paperwork, she said to me, well, when you have a history of unrenewed restraining orders, we get to call that person and tell him you're there. A history? One restraining order is a history of non-renewed restraining orders. That non-renewal based on a judge he works with who he knows, falsified evidence, stolen weapons, and the rest of it. Okay, are you still with me? I hope so. It's going a little longer than I thought, but there's just a lot. Okay, she told me his threats to kill me, break into my house, and rape me were not viable because he didn't have a gun to my head. Well, let's hope you guys got, he doesn't have any more hidden weapons around his house that you don't know are missing, because how can you not know your own stuff is gone, Chief Cudmore? How can you not know that you sent this guy out there and you just set me up and then joined in on the terrorization? Just some questions I'm throwing out there. I met with her. Like I said, she said that his threats weren't viable because he didn't have a gun to my head. And her advice to me was that I should get a new phone. Okay, I've had 5 cell phones in the last year. 5. They've all been hacked. Getting a new phone does not help you when you are up against somebody who is a psychopathic stalker, who manipulates, lies, does not do his job, steals, threatens people, makes falsified arrests, and I don't even know, on and on and on. You don't just get a new phone. You take care of the problem, you guys, and you didn't do it. So, now, what does that bring me to? That was November. From November 17th until February, I reached out to several senators, the Attorney General, the Clerk Magistrates, the Chief Justice. They have all this information. They chose not to do anything. I told you guys that in my last video. I never got a response from the Clerk or the Chief Justice. I got a response from the Attorney General in charge of public corruption, but he said he was too busy to help me. Okay. So in February, I went down there again and I tried to take a different approach. In this report, I said, these are the things that are happening to me. All of my accounts are hacked. My business websites have been taken down offline. I've been booted from Facebook. I can't get on a dating site to save my life, which who the heck wanted to date at that point anyway, so that was fine. But I did try just to see because, again, I'm an awesome evidence collector. You guys probably should have me working at the police department once you get out all the bad guys and we can get shit back in order. Swear number 2. Okay. I went down and I said this. I provided 140 more photographs, videos, screenshots, evidence, hardcore evidence, that it was still happening. And in fact, since I had made the report, it had gotten 100 times worse. 2 weeks after the investigation started with Detective Carapellucci, who I feel actually was trying to help me, and when I turned in the 140 more pieces of evidence, said to me, you're definitely being hacked. I don't know, we're gonna have to figure it out, okay? So I think he was on my side for a little bit, but 2 weeks after that investigation started, I got a phone call saying that the investigation was over before anything had even been resolved again, and that the chief said that the Georgetown police were too busy to spend time on this. I'm still getting stalked and hacked. I'm being followed. I've got my, all of these random devices connected to my accounts that I don't have. Clearly something's wrong. I kind of backtrack a little bit because I left something out. And that was on the day after the restraining order hearing, November 7th, my Wi-Fi was hacked, 100% taken offline, scheduled for a move, phone numbers changed in my account. I called Comcast and they were like, we don't know what's happening, let's put it all back the way it should be. On that day, my Wi-Fi got hacked and he was in, okay? I have plenty of proof to show you he was in my account. Okay, on November 7th in the morning, before he hacked my Wi-Fi, he went to the new report jurisdiction separate from the one he works in, and he tried to get a restraining order against me. Thank God it wasn't given, because I would have had my weapon taken away from me, and then I really would have had no safety at all. All I had up until that point was my one handgun, licensed, fully licensed, on the up and up, that I was carrying with me 24/7 because I was terrified. So if he was successful in getting that restraining order, not only would I have had the Georgetown police against me and after me, but I also would have had 2 judges and no weapon to protect myself with. Okay. Going to February. They tell me, no, we can't do that. I asked for them to subpoena all of my accounts. I had to demand it, quite frankly. I have copies of those subpoenas. Now, here's the Comcast subpoena. Remember I told you guys November 7th was the day I got hacked, and November 7th was the day I reported to the police? Well, let's see. Here's their subpoena. What does it say to you guys there? Can you see the dates? From December 1st through January 4th. That's what they asked Comcast to provide them. I had already told them my account was hacked on November 7th, and for the month of December, I did not renew my Wi-Fi because I was trying to figure out how the heck he was getting into all my accounts. And the best thing that I could figure out was that he had hijacked my Wi-Fi connection. I mean, he does own an IT company. Since 1999, by the way, registered with Chamber of Commerce up there in Newburyport, that manufactures semiconductors, receivers, and tracking equipment. But no, he wouldn't know how to do this, do you think? No, probably not. This is what the Georgetown police subpoenaed. They knew that I let my Wi-Fi expire, and I was going without TV and Wi-Fi in my house just to try to protect myself, and they asked for Comcast to provide records from during the month that I don't have Wi-Fi. Really, Chief Cudmore? I mean, you guys must think I'm really dumb. Okay, here's their subpoenas. Let's see, I wrote them all down. Here's what they chose to subpoena. I lost my list already. Okay, whatever, I can remember. Comcast, Verizon, and Microsoft. The letter that I got from the chief says, keep in mind, I've been a paralegal. I know how it works. That The only company that responded to date, this letter is dated May 17th because I repeatedly asked over and over, where's the information from the subpoenas? When you send out a subpoena, the company gets 30 days to reply. 30, or whatever time frame you put in your subpoena is when you want that records back. But from the best of my knowledge and recollection, it's usually like 30 days. Maybe 45 if there's going to be a lot. But, you know, I doubt it. All I have is Wi-Fi. I didn't have any other accounts, so, you know, it shouldn't take him too long to look it up. He tells me, the chief, in this letter, that Comcast responded they were unable to find any information relative to the request. Maybe that's because I didn't have Wi-Fi at the time, and I made in my report written that the date, along with the evidence of screenshots and reports that I already had of my Wi-Fi getting hacked that day, was turned off. They're not going to find anything if I don't have Wi-Fi and you don't subpoena the right dates. This was on top of refusing, the chief refused to subpoena Match.com, Dating.com, Single Parents Meet, and everything else. I said, can you help me? They won't give me the information. I was actually referred to the Georgetown police if I wanted to find out why I got booted from Match.com. Oh, okay, well, that's pretty much all you need. That followed by the chief saying, no, we're not going to look into it. Why not? Maybe it's because you already know. You already know. Now I'm getting mad. Okay. Also in his letter, the chief says that I should be aware, because I'm not a licensed paralegal or anything that's worked for some of the best criminal defense attorneys in town, that responses from companies relative to subpoenas can take months and often reveal little information. Are you kidding me, buddy? Okay, like I said, I think you guys need an assistant down there at the GPD because you guys don't know what you're doing or you're a bunch of liars. So here's the subpoenas that I got in March. There's Verizon, Comcast, and Microsoft. To date, what is it now, you guys? October 12th? No information has been provided to me with regard to what these subpoenas produced from their requests. I don't think they ever sent them out because they lied about this one, and then poor Detective Carapellucci, who I think is kind of new, gave this to me, and I was like, buddy, you didn't even request the right dates. Okay. So that gets that, okay? Nothing was done about that last report. Basically, I was told again to beat it. They wouldn't have time because there's so much crime in Georgetown, Mass. Population at less than 8,000. And let's face it, if you know Georgetown, you know it's Mayberry. These people up here lose their minds. One, when people swear, and two, I mean, you should have seen the Facebook debate they had about poor Stuart Eggenberg's vape rack in a store. One rack that sells vapes unrelated to marijuana. They almost got the guy shut down. So, okay, back on track. During this time, I repeatedly gave them more evidence. I was not going to let it go, okay? I knew what was going on because I'm not dumb. Anybody that looks at all of this can see clearly what's happening per Chief Cudmore. So, I got this letter on April 16th after saying numerous times in emails that, you know, my stuff was being hacked. I said, I got a new phone. I will drop this one off at the police station. You guys can take a look at it. Let me know what you think. I have a Surface Pro tablet, blah, blah, blah. They told me to hold off, okay? Keep that in mind. Hold off. I found sound recording apps on my Surface Pro tablet and accounts that had been added to my tablet that were password protected. Excuse me, one of them was Xbox Smart Glass. I don't have an Xbox. I'm 47 years old. I don't play Xbox. There's not even one in my house. There's no reason why I would download Xbox Smart Glass on my tablet that nobody else uses and then password protect it with a password I don't know because now I can't get in to remove it. Smart Glass, for those of you who don't know, allow all your devices to connect together. So if you have Smart Glass installed on the tablet and you go on Wi-Fi, any other devices connected to the accessible to that tablet can be accessed through the Smart Glass app. Okay. The chief sent me this letter on April 16th. Here's a signature. Don Cudmore. I'm telling you what. It says, because he likes to falsify reports, by the way, I have a whole stack of reports from him. The one I showed you that were all blanked out. The information in there is completely incorrect. It says things like, I refused restraining orders. Never. I asked for them multiple times. It says that I attempted to walk out of his office. Maybe once, Chief Cudmore, because I knew you were lying to my face and you were trying to recite Mass General laws to me, which I know all about. And guess what? Mass General laws don't have anything to do with felonies. Okay. He says in this letter that despite repeated requests for me to turn in my Surface tablet, my cellular telephones, all other devices have been, these numerous requests have gone unanswered. Numerous requests. I have emails, Chief, and you know it, of me asking, when can I drop this stuff off? Saying, I don't want it in my house. I feel uncomfortable with this in my house. He has sound recording devices that are password protected that I can't remove. Can he log in and hear me when I'm just walking around my house? Probably, okay? So, in case you can, and I'm pretty sure I'm right, you know all the shit that I've been saying to your ass. So anyways, okay. That was the 27th. I have made reports by email almost every single day, at least in the beginning, and then I tried to tried to calm myself down a little and realized they weren't going to do it. I knew they weren't going to do anything. I knew that a year ago, but the point of me emailing them all those times was so that I could have proof that I repeatedly, with evidence, was making reports that this behavior was all still happening, and since April, I have gotten no response from the police. None. Now, there's one little tidbit I did leave out that I just remembered, and that is that on November 6th, the day I went to go get the restraining orders, when the chief said to me by email that he had just only informed the DA now, even though months had passed by and they knew he stole stuff from them. Here it is, from Don Cudmore to Michelle. I'm going to read this to you. On that day, the weekend of the terrorization of the Georgetown police to me, he says to me that I was advised at 2 occasions, even though we had been emailing each other since August, that as you were advised on 2 separate occasions pursuant to MGL, he loves those Mass General laws, doesn't he? All internal investigations are public information, as is all email correspondence. Once the investigation is concluded, you should know that this report has already been requested by others since it was complete. This was November 3rd. The hearing that they told me was happening with this guy wasn't even supposed to be until November 11th. And guess what, guys? September 18th, there you have it. The DA said no release of reports or information prior to the hearing date. There you go. Chief Cudmore, why, if this is in your report saying the DA said no release of information, are you trying to make me feel terrified for my life by telling me, guess what? that you gave all the information to that guy again. This is what I'm dealing with, you guys. I have plenty of proof. I have more evidence than even is right here printed out. And let me just show you what we're talking about. And this is just what I have printed out. Do you guys really think that if I didn't have all this evidence, I would still be fighting this? Come on. I mean, I just need someone to help me out. This is definitely what's going on. I'm proving it to you guys. For all the people who don't want to believe me, that's your issue, but you cannot dispute this. You cannot dispute the fact that clearly the chief has lied multiple times to me in writing. And you know what, chief? If you're gonna tell me that I've been advised multiple times to not do things on email, why are you emailing me? I rest my case. That was my closing argument. What say you, jury of Facebook peers? I would love to know. I'm gonna try to post as much of this stuff as possible and whatever I think that I can legally post without putting myself in harm's way. But this is what's going on in Georgetown, Mass. I want some answers, Chief Cudmore, and I think you've known all along what this guy has been up to, and that's why you refused to subpoena these accounts, and when the one subpoena you did send was for a time that I didn't even have Wi-Fi because you knew nothing was gonna come back. Nice try. I give you props, but something is very wrong, and we need an investigation right now into this kind of behavior. I hope that you guys were able to follow me. I hope I didn't swear too much. I probably did, but you know, it is what it is. So comment and let me know what you think. And if you think that all of this has been federal level crimes, share this post. Thanks, guys.